Are there things that you want to do in life but you feel hesitant to start them? If so, this video is for you. A lot of times when we start something new, it can be scary, it can seem intimidating, challenging, or daunting. And that's because it's new and unknown, and often we don't know how we're going to be received when we put ourselves out there. In this video, I'm going to be talking about putting ourselves out there doing what we love. So back in 2013, I went on a paid work trip to San Francisco. At the time, I was working at a winery. And I had such a good time on that trip. And I remember when I came back, I wrote in my journal that if I could be doing anything in life at that time, I'd be living in San Francisco and I'd be writing a book. So the funny thing about that was that some part of my true personality, my inspired personality, must have been shining through at that point in time, because the only writing that I had done at that point, aside from writing for school when I was getting my degree, was journaling. I used to journal a lot, but I had never done any formal writing or published anything. But one thing about me is that I love cities that are rich in history, major world cities like Seattle, San Francisco, San Diego, and Seoul, to name a few. I feel really inspired by cities like these, and it's like when I visit them, I connect with their energy. So even though I had this desire to write and I really wanted to create written content that other people could read and interact with and connect with, I didn't do anything about it, at least not at that time. I had just switched jobs and I began working as a probation officer, and I think it was the following year that I started my blog. So I remember I went on YouTube and I looked up how to make a website, and I just followed along with this tutorial and I created a website, and then from there I was able to start posting blogs. And when I first started posting blogs, I remember my very first post, I felt so embarrassed and self-conscious, but I also felt truly excited. There was a mix of both happening. And it felt like that for a while. I had to post several blogs before that feeling started to subside. It was uncomfortable because it was new. It was a side of me that I hadn't shared with anyone before. And I was also being vulnerable by expressing myself and putting myself out there in a way for others to experience. However, after posting for a little while, those uncomfortable feelings eventually went away and it became normal, natural, and felt like second nature for me to be posting blogs and to be sharing and expressing myself through writing and in the way that I was. And I really enjoy being able to write about whatever I want because it's my content, it's my website, and it's my creation. Whatever the thing or things that you want to do in life are, one thing to keep in mind is that you're not going to be a pro when you start. There is a learning curve. So if you want to be polished, professional, or have some other level of perfectionism before you start, it is not going to happen. You have to start first and improve as you go. And this is something that held me back because I had this idea that when I created YouTube videos, for instance, that I should come off looking professional. And the thing about that is that that's not even my personality. I think it was the way I perceived myself in my mind, but it's just not me. Like, don't get me wrong, I can be very professional, but it's just not the true essence of me that comes across. For instance, I like to laugh, I smile a lot, I'm definitely more casual on camera. My writing can be very formal, but how I come across when I'm recording, it's just not that. So I had to get over that perception, and the best way to do that was to start filming videos and to see how I actually was on camera, how it felt to be comfortable, and just how I came across. And the thing is, if I tried to come across very professional, then I wouldn't come across very authentic. So it's just a learning curve. So writing is a great example because even after publishing content for 12 plus years, I'm still always growing, changing. My writing is always evolving, and it will continue to do so for the rest of my life. The point is that perfect does not exist. Perfectionism does not exist. Only creativity does. The question is, what are you inspired to do? How are you inspired to carry it out and to bring it into the world? In my own journey, blogging helped pave the way for me to be able to eventually write a book. It was because I was so familiar with blogging that I was able to then conceptualize and see the bigger picture of how I was going to structure the book I wanted to write. In 2024, I published my first book, Intuitive Depression Living in Alignment, which focuses on how to move through lower and denser feeling emotions and find greater alignment. I wrote about my multi-year experience with major depression and how I was able to move out of it because I really wanted other people who are experiencing the same thing to be able to move through that process more quickly than I did. And despite being excited to write a book and share that information, another part of me struggled with embarrassment. I hadn't really talked about experiencing depression with a lot of people in my life. I had kept it hidden, and so here I was with a book all about depression, and it was even in the title of it, so there was no hiding it. So you can probably imagine how uncomfortable that might be when people are not used to seeing you a certain way, and here you are putting yourself out there to be seen in a whole new light. Also, in the culture that we live in, although it's becoming more prevalent, it still often feels like there's stigma or taboo about talking about our deepest emotions, and it can feel uncomfortable to do so. The irony is that the more that you do the things you enjoy to do, that you're drawn to do, that you love to do, despite the fear, you show up anyways, even when it's uncomfortable, then an alchemy occurs and it becomes more normal and just simply a part of who you are. From my perspective, it seems as though the fear is this initiator. It initiates us and moves us into our destiny, into the next phase of life, into the next path of life, into the next growth cycle. So a lot of times you have to step into the fear in order to get there to the place that you want to go. The thing is that you are taking on a new identity. When you say yes to the things that you really want to do, you are transforming into a brand new version of yourself. You are honoring yourself, your truth, and your authenticity. Back when I began writing my book, I was embarrassed to talk about depression. Today, I am not embarrassed at all to talk about depression. I think it's an experience that many of us will go through at some point in our lives, and I am proud to be one of the many voices talking out about depression. There is an alchemy that happens when you follow your authenticity despite your fears. And my last piece of advice is to start now, don't wait. We can get trapped in a cycle of telling ourselves that we will start something, that we plan to start something, that we're waiting for the right time, or that we're waiting for this or that, or to find this piece of information before we get started. There's so many different excuses. It's a trick that the mind plays in order to keep us safe, which can also be stuck. It can keep us in the familiar, it can keep us in the known, but that also keeps us from moving forward and to moving into the next phase of life. Do not wait. Find a way to start doing whatever that thing is that has been on your mind, that thing that you're drawn to do. When I started writing blogs, I was self-conscious, but I did it anyways. When I started writing a book, I wasn't an expert, I didn't have it all figured out, and I was even embarrassed that people would find out that I was depressed. But I did it anyways. I just started and I kept on doing it. I kept on showing up, and eventually I had an entire book. When I started my YouTube channel several years ago, I felt embarrassed that people would see me being vulnerable, that they would hear me talking about the spiritual topics that I love and think that I was out there, that the topics were out there. And I just showed up and I did it anyways because it was calling to me, because I was drawn to do it, because that thought to start a YouTube channel just was always there in the back of my mind. Several months ago, I restarted my YouTube channel, and before I restarted my channel, I hesitated because I felt like it was going to be hard, that I didn't have the best equipment to make videos with, etc. The thing is that they were all excuses that were rooted in fear, different types of fear, like fear of being seen, fear of putting myself out there, and fear of not making high quality enough videos. I'm glad that I restarted my YouTube channel because the call to do it, the draw to do it was there. It was consistent. And one thing that has surprised me about making videos is the pride that I feel. Whenever I finish a video, I feel this authentic and genuine pride. And it's something that I haven't felt in a lot of other areas of my life. And it's not because I made the best video, but it's because I put myself out there, I did the thing that I was drawn to do, I learned and applied new skills, and I showed up. My biggest regret with this channel is not having started it sooner, because if I did, I could have made even more progress by now. So if there's something that you're drawn to do, something that's been on your mind that you repeatedly find yourself thinking about and wondering about, maybe even visualizing yourself doing, make the decision to go all in. Start doing that thing today. Do not wait and do not hesitate. Take an action step today. Ask yourself, what is one step that I can take today to put me on that path? Once you start doing that thing, you take on that identity and you literally begin to transform. You alchemize the fear that you had, and you find that on the other side of that fear are things like love, joy, excitement, and enjoyment. And you'll also find that there was really nothing to be afraid of in the first place at all. So I want to thank you for joining me today. I've enjoyed having this conversation with you. I hope that you go for your goals and your dreams and that you do not wait to get started. I would love if you shared in the comments what you've taken the initiative to act on recently and have done despite your fears. I will see you next time.